My name is Katie Blaha. I'm 35 years old, and until that night, I thought honesty was the foundation of love. Turns out it was the weapon that destroyed mine. It started after Marcus's sister's engagement party, champagne laughter, and too many reminders that everyone around us was madly in love. Marcus and I drove home in silence, at first city lights flickering across his face as he loosened his tie. I remember thinking he looked tired, almost burdened. Then casually, as if discussing tomorrow's weather, he said, "You know what I love about us, Katie? We're realistic." I smiled, expecting something sweet. "Realistic? How so?" He chuckled, eyes on the road. "You're safe, steady. I'm marrying you because you're reliable. You've got your life together. You're not the type to fall apart or chase drama." I blinked, unsure if I heard him right. Reliable. He nodded, warming to his own words. "Yeah, you've got the good job savings, your own condo benefits, stability. That's rare these days. You're the kind of woman a man can build with." He said it like a compliment, like I should be flattered that I was dependable. I tried to laugh it off. "So you're marrying me for my resume?" He smirked. "Come on, Katie. Don't be sentimental. Love's nice, but it fades. Stability lasts. My ex, Angela, she was all passion and chaos. I can't do that again. I need peace." The name hit me like a pebble to the chest. Angela, the woman he never quite stopped mentioning. "Marcus," I said slowly, "you're saying you don't love me?" He sighed as if I'd missed the point. "I care about you. You're good for me. That's more important than butterflies." For a second, the hum of the car engine was the only sound. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a billboard flash past, "Build your future on solid ground." I almost laughed at the irony. "So this is practical then?" I asked quietly. He nodded. "Exactly. No illusions. You don't have to worry about me running off, and I don't have to worry about drama. We'll have a good life, stable, safe, successful." My throat tightened, but I forced my voice calm. Crystal clear. He grinned, thinking the conversation was done. "Good. I knew you'd understand." Understand. What I understood was that the man sitting next to me had just stripped the romance from our future and replaced it with a spreadsheet. When we pulled into the driveway of my condo, the one I bought years before meeting him, he turned off the engine and faced me. "Don't get weird about this, Katie. You're not one of those needy women. You're smarter than that." I smiled the polite, empty smile women wear when their hearts are breaking, but they refuse to let the other person see. "Of course, I'm practical too, remember." He kissed my cheek, completely missing the tremor in my voice. "That's what I love about you." That night, while he showered, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the diamond ring on my finger. Under the warm light, it gleamed perfect, cold, unfeeling. My mind replayed every word. "You're safe. You're stable. I'm marrying you because you're reliable." Each phrase echoed like a slow drumbeat. I'd spent 3 years thinking he chose me because of who I was, my humor, my kindness, the way I made him feel seen. But in his mind, I was a retirement plan with a pulse. A gust of wind rattled the window, startling me. I caught my reflection in the glass, calm, composed eyes, dry but hollow. That was when it clicked. If stability was all he wanted, then that's exactly what he would get, nothing more, nothing less. The next morning, Marcus acted like nothing had happened. He brewed coffee, hummed along to the radio, kissed me goodbye before heading to work. I smiled back as though I hadn't spent half the night staring at the ceiling, replaying every line of his confession. At my office, I found myself zoning out in meetings. My coworker, Nora, nudged me, whispering, "You okay? You look like you just read your own obituary." "Just tired," I lied. But inside, something had shifted. A quiet numbness had replaced my warmth, the part of me that used to plan surprises for him, the one that believed in shared dreams. That evening, I came home to find Marcus cooking dinner, pasta, candles, the whole picture-perfect scene. "Figured I'd make up for last night," he said cheerfully. Didn't mean to sound robotic. I watched him move around the kitchen, confidently plating the meal, like he could fix what he'd broken with sauce and good lighting. "It's fine," I said. "You were honest. I appreciate that." He smiled, relieved. "See, that's what makes you amazing, Katie. You don't overreact." No, I didn't. I never overreacted. That was my problem. We ate dinner like nothing had changed, but every word he spoke sounded like an investor's report. "We'll make a great team. You're efficient. We'll have a good foundation." When he reached for my hand, I let him. But in my mind, I was already somewhere else, quietly drafting the exit plan of a woman who refused to be anyone's safe option. Later that night, I slipped into bed beside him. He fell asleep within minutes. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, whispering to myself, "He doesn't love you, Katie. He loves your stability. So give him what he wants, stability, then take it away." A plan began to form, calm and methodical, as steady as the heartbeat in my chest. I would not yell. I would not cry. I would not beg for love that was never mine to begin with. I'd simply do what practical women do, best prepare. As Marcus murmured in his sleep beside me, I turned to look at him one last time, the man who thought I'd never walk away, the man who mistook composure for weakness. "You'll learn soon enough," I whispered into the dark. "You wanted stability. I'll show you exactly what that looks like." The clock ticked toward midnight, and somewhere deep inside, a quiet promise took root, not of revenge, but of reclamation. Because if love was gone, all that was left was strategy. And I've always been very good at plans. Marcus always said he admired how composed I was. That week, he found out what that composure really meant. I started small, quiet, methodical, like erasing pencil marks no one notices until the page is blank. The Monday after his honesty night, Marcus came home waving wedding magazines. "You should see the ballroom at the Evergreen Country Club," he said. "It's perfect for our kind of crowd." Our kind, I asked, my tone soft but sharp enough to cut paper. He grinned. Professional, accomplished. People who matter. People who matter. I smiled faintly, pretending to flip through the glossy pages. Chandeliers. Champagne. More performance than partnership. "Actually," I said after a pause, "I've been thinking. A courthouse ceremony makes more sense. Simple. Efficient. Practical." He froze mid-page turn. "Courthouse. Are you serious? What would people think?" I looked him dead in the eye. "That we're not wasting money on illusions." The irony didn't even register. His mouth opened, then closed. "That's different. Weddings are about presentation, not romance." I tilted my head. "Sounds romantic to me." That night, he went to bed early, frustrated. I stayed up late researching property laws and tenants' rights. The condo was mine, paid for, titled solely in my name. He'd never contributed to mortgage or repairs. Just to be sure, I emailed my lawyer subject line, premarital property clarification. By Friday, I had answers, legal clarity, airtight protection, and a growing calmness inside me. Stability. Just not the kind Marcus imagined. On Saturday, I took a quiet walk through the apartment, mentally noting what was his and what was mine. His a few suits and espresso machine I bought last Christmas, and that obnoxious framed photo of him on a yacht before we met. Mine. Everything that mattered. He came in from the gym, sweaty and smug. "You've been cleaning again," he said, smiling. "I swear I hit the jackpot with you. Most women would complain about chores." I really looked at him, and realized how detached my heart felt, like I was watching a stranger. "I don't mind order," I replied. "It makes leaving easier." He laughed. "Leaving what?" "Clutter," I said simply. He didn't catch the double meaning. He never did. That evening, I met with my friend Julia, who worked in property law. We sat in her office as I slid over my condo documents. She skimmed them and nodded. "You're in the clear. He has no legal claim, not even as a fiancé. Want me to draft something formal?" "Yes," I said. "Something professional, but polite." Julia leaned back, raising an eyebrow. "He doesn't know what's coming, does he?" "No," I murmured, "and I'd like to keep it that way." At home, Marcus was on the phone, laughing too loudly. I caught the name Angela, his ex, and froze in the doorway. No, don't worry," he was saying. "Katie's not the jealous type. She's rational like me." He didn't see me watching. My pulse didn't even rise. It just steadied. Every word confirmed what I already knew. I was convenient, not cherished. When he hung up, I asked casually, "That Angela?" He flinched. "Just catching up. We're friends." I nodded. "Of course. Friends are important." He seemed relieved that I didn't argue. He didn't notice the flicker of cold amusement behind my eyes. That night, I quietly moved all my personal documents and jewelry into a small lockbox at work. Then I opened a new bank account under my own name. No shared access, no traceable connection. Each small step felt like removing invisible strings. 2 weeks later, Marcus came home waving his laptop again. "We need to pick a wedding date," he said, scrolling through calendar apps. "May or June. Before my promotion party." "Promotion party?" I asked. He smiled. "I'm a finalist for department lead. You'll be the perfect wife for networking events, Katie." Poised, graceful, the men at the firm respect that. Poised, graceful, stable, everything he wanted and everything I'd already stopped being for him. "I'm happy for you," I said softly. "You deserve someone who looks perfect beside you." He leaned in to kiss me, but I stepped back under the pretense of checking the oven. He didn't notice. He rarely did. A few nights later, I lay awake staring at the ceiling again. The city outside hummed with life cars, laughter, freedom. I turned on my side, watching Marcus sleep. For a moment, I tried to remember the first time I loved him, the tiny things that made me believe he was different. But the memories felt blurred, overwritten by condescension and coldness. He stirred and muttered, "You're too quiet lately." "I'm thinking," I whispered. "About what?" "About how adults handle disappointment." He frowned, half asleep. "You're weird sometimes, you know that." I smiled faintly. "You'll see." Sunday morning, while he was out golfing, I met with a realtor. The apartment I'd found was small but bright, a one-bedroom, near my office facing the park. I signed the lease that afternoon. The realtor handed me the keys. "When do you move in?" "In 3 weeks," I said. As I walked out, the sunlight hit my face, and for the first time in months, I felt lighter. That evening, Marcus came home flushed with excitement. "Guess who got invited to the Reed family's summer villa in August? Us. You'll love it, Katie. You'll fit right in with everyone." I smiled. "You're right. I always fit in." But in my head, I added, "And I always know when to leave quietly." A few days later, I opened my laptop and began documenting everything. His words, his tone, the exact phrasing of that night in the car. "I'm marrying you because you're stable." It wasn't revenge. It was insurance, the same way you keep spare batteries for a flashlight you hope you'll never need. When Marcus walked past, I minimized the screen. "What are you working on?" he asked. "Just organizing my files," I replied. He nodded approvingly. "You're so efficient, Katie. That's why we work." I looked at him for a long moment. "We'll see," I said softly. He smiled, oblivious, kissing my forehead before heading to the shower. The moment the door closed, I exhaled slowly, then whispered to myself, "Step 1 done." By the time the 3rd week rolled around, I had everything in place. New lease signed, movers scheduled, and every sentimental illusion boxed up neatly in my mind. Marcus, meanwhile, was blissfully unaware. He was busy discussing wedding seating charts and which of his coworkers deserved front row placement. That Friday night, he stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for his cousin's wedding. "You're wearing the blue dress, right?" he asked. "It makes you look successful." Successful. Not beautiful, not radiant. Successful. I adjusted the strap of the dress absent-mindedly. "Actually, I said I won't be going." He froze mid-adjustment. "What do you mean you're not going?" "We RSVP'd months ago." I met his reflection in the mirror, his confident smirk faltering for the first time. "You should still go. I have plans." Plans. What plans could possibly be more important than my family's wedding? I closed my laptop, the hum of the screen cutting off the silence between us. "Moving." He turned slowly, confusion melting into disbelief. "Moving? Moving where?" "What are you talking about?" "Out," I said simply. "Tomorrow." The silence stretched long and heavy. He blinked, then laughed a sharp, nervous sound. "You're joking." "No," I said. "You wanted a practical relationship. I'm being practical. This isn't working for me." He stared at me, incredulous. "Because of that one conversation, you're seriously doing this because of what I said when I was tipsy." "It wasn't one conversation, Marcus. It was a truth you were proud to share. You don't love me. You just think I'm safe. I've decided I don't want to be anyone's stability blanket." He threw up his hands. "You're twisting my words. I said I cared about you." "Care isn't love," I replied, calm but cold. "You told me yourself passion fades. Maybe for you it did. It never started for me again after that night." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "You're overreacting. You'll regret this." I tilted my head slightly. "Funny. You said love fades, but threats, those seem to last forever." He exhaled sharply, pacing. "Where will you even go? This is your home." "My home," I corrected. "Exactly." He stopped. His voice rose. "You're throwing away a good thing. I give you security, stability, a future." I looked him straight in the eye. "Marcus, I am the security. You moved into my condo. You don't pay rent. You use my car more than yours. You've been living off my stability while telling me you're the one providing it." His face darkened. "That's cruel, Katie." "It's factual." For the first time, he looked small, stripped of the confidence he wore like cologne. "You can't just leave me." "I can," I said quietly. "Because you told me what this was. You were clear." He stood there, jaw clenched, trying to find words that might rewind the moment. "I said those things because I was scared. Love messes people up. I didn't want to get hurt again." "So you decided to hurt me first?" I asked. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The silence that followed was strange, not angry, just final. I turned away, unplugged my laptop, and began stacking a few boxes by the door. "You're really doing this," he whispered. "Yes, tomorrow." He rubbed his face with both hands. "You're being insane." "Maybe," I said softly, "but at least I'm being honest. You should appreciate that." He stormed out to this balcony to make a call. I heard snippets. She's overreacting. No, she's fine. She'll calm down. When he came back inside, his phone buzzed again, his mother. He put her on speaker. Katie, Mrs. Reed's voice rang sharp and dramatic. Marcus tells me you're having some kind of meltdown. I smiled faintly. Just a moment of clarity. You're embarrassing my son. You're lucky to have him. He's offering you a solid life, a respectable marriage. Respectable for who I asked. He told me he's marrying me for my reliability, not love. Oh, please, every woman wants security. Don't be naive. Then maybe I'm the naive one, I said, because I thought love was supposed to come first. Marcus tried to interject. Mom, don't. But I was already walking toward the front door. You're right about one thing, Mrs. Reed, I said, pausing. Every woman wants security. I just realized I can provide my own. I hung up the phone before she could answer. The next morning, while Marcus was at brunch with his parents, I began. Movers arrived promptly at 10. I'd labeled everything the night before Keep Donate and a third box labeled Mistakes. That one stayed empty because I refused to carry them with me. By noon, my condo looked hollow again like the day I first bought it. The difference was, this time I wasn't scared of the emptiness. I welcomed it. Marcus came home just as the last box left the elevator. His expression crumbled when he saw the bare walls. What the hell is this? Exactly what it looks like, I said. A practical exit. He looked around, voice rising. You took everything. No, I said calmly. I took my things. You never contributed to this space. You're welcome to stay for 30 days if you need time to find somewhere else. Consider it a notice. He laughed bitterly. You can't evict your fiancé. Ex-fiancé, I corrected. And legally, yes, I can. He stared at me, part disbelief, part admiration. You're colder than I thought. I smiled faintly. No, just practical. You taught me that. He sat on the couch, well what was left of it, head in his hands. What am I supposed to do now? Whatever practical people do, I said, walking toward the door. Adapt. He looked up, voice trembling. You'll regret this, Katie. No one will love you the way I did. I stopped, hand on the doorknob. Exactly, I said quietly. That's why I'm leaving. Then I walked out, calm, steady, the sound of my heels echoing through the hallway like punctuation marks at the end of a long, unwanted sentence. Behind me, I heard him whisper something that almost sounded like my name, but I didn't turn around. He had his stability. Now, I finally had my peace. The first week after I left was blissfully quiet. No arguments, no condescension, just silence, the kind that hums softly between new walls and clean sheets. I spent my mornings unpacking my nights, walking around my new neighborhood, learning the rhythm of my independence. Every sound, the kettle, whistling the elevator, ding, the hum of my old playlist felt like a small victory. But peace never lasts when someone like Marcus realizes he's lost control. It started with the texts. I miss you. You misunderstood everything. Come home, Katie. We can fix this. Then came the voice messages, long, rambling apologies that somehow circled back to blame. You made me say those things that night. You always analyze everything. You twist meaning. I didn't respond. Not once. By the third day, the tone shifted. You're being immature. You owe me closure. You'll never find someone like me. That last one made me smile, because that was the point. One evening, I came home from work to find a bouquet of lilies on my doorstep, my least favorite flower. A note tucked between the stems read, "Let's talk, you're overreacting. Dinner tomorrow." I placed the flowers gently in the trash. Stability doesn't wilt in vases, it flourishes in boundaries. Then came the performance. Marcus changed his social media profile picture to one of us, an old photo from a vacation I'd paid for. The caption read, "True love conquers all. Real relationships take work." Hundreds of likes, comments from friends saying how perfect we looked. For a moment, I almost laughed. The man who refused to believe in romance was now broadcasting heartbreak for sympathy. That night, I posted one sentence on my own account. Our engagement ended when honesty revealed our difference in values. No details, no venom, just truth. By morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Half the messages were supportive, quiet nods from friends who'd seen the cracks before I did. The other half were accusations. Why would you humiliate him like that? You broke his heart over a misunderstanding. Marcus had spun his version fast, the calm storyteller painting himself as the victim of a cold, career-obsessed woman. It would have been almost impressive if it weren't so predictable. A few days later, Julia called me, her voice tight. "You need to see this." She sent a link, Marcus's Instagram story. My old condo full of people, laughter, clinking glasses. A dinner party. My wine glasses, my plates, my space. The caption read, "Hosting friends again, life moves on. Hatch grateful, Shatch growth." My stomach went cold. I called my neighbor, Mrs. Hale, an elderly woman who'd lived across the hall for 20 years. "Oh, honey," she said, "he's got at least a dozen people over there. Looks like they're having a full-on party." "Thank you," I said softly. "I'll handle it." I didn't call the police. I didn't yell or make a scene. I simply drove over my key, still fitting perfectly in the door. When I stepped inside, the chatter faltered. Every head turned. Marcus stood in the center of the living room, holding a glass of wine. "Katie," he said brightly, pretending surprise. "Everyone, this is the woman I was telling you about, my ex, but we're on good terms." "On whose terms?" I asked calmly. A few guests exchanged uneasy glances. One whispered, "Wait, isn't this her place?" I nodded politely. "Yes, it is. Or was. Until 30 days' notice was given. And last I checked, you're not a tenant anymore." Marcus laughed too loudly. "She's joking. We agreed to share the space for a bit." "No," I cut him off. "We didn't." The room fell silent, the air thick with awkwardness. "I'd appreciate it if everyone left," I said evenly. "Now." A woman near the window, one of Marcus's co-workers, I think, mumbled, "I thought you two were back together." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Katie, don't do this. You're embarrassing yourself." "No," I said, eyes locked on his. "I'm protecting my property." For a long moment, he held my stare. Then one by one, people began to leave, murmuring apologies, avoiding eye contact. By the time the door shut behind the last guest, only the two of us remained. Marcus slammed his glass on the counter. "You humiliated me. You invited yourself into my home," I said, voice steady. "You played pretend, and I ended the show." He took a step closer, eyes dark. "You think you can just erase me?" "I don't need to," I replied. "You're erasing yourself." He grabbed a half-empty bottle from the counter and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, red wine splattering across the white paint. I didn't flinch. "That's property damage," I said, softly pulling out my phone, "and I'm recording this for documentation." His face twisted, confusion, anger, desperation, all fighting for space. "You're insane." "No," I said, tapping the screen. "I'm practical." By the next morning, my lawyer had the footage. By the afternoon, Marcus had a formal eviction notice taped to the condo door. He texted me once more that night. "You've turned into someone cruel." I didn't reply, but for the first time I smiled at the accusation, because for years I'd been kind at my own expense. Now I was simply fair. 2 days later, his mother called again. "Katie, sweetheart, you're overreacting. Marcus is heartbroken. Don't drag this through the mud." "I'm not dragging anything," I said. "I'm cleaning it." "You used to be such a sweet girl." "I still am," I answered. "Just not his." The following week, a notice from the property management office confirmed that Marcus Reed was officially banned from the premises for violation of tenant conduct. And just like that, the chapter closed. Still, I knew Marcus men like him never end with silence. They escalate when they lose the spotlight. And as I folded the final document into my file folder labeled Closure, I had no idea how right I was. Because his next move wouldn't just aim at my peace, it would aim at my career. Marcus didn't take humiliation quietly. He never did. When control slipped through his fingers, he didn't try to win me back, he tried to ruin me. It started with whispers. My coworker Nora leaned over one morning and said softly, "Hey, are you okay? I heard someone called HR about you." I froze mid-sip of coffee. "What do you mean?" "They said you were acting unstable, crying at work, shouting at people. HR said they had to check in." I felt the blood drain from my face. There was only one person who would do that. I nodded slowly. "Thanks, Nora. I'll take care of it." That afternoon, my manager called me into a small conference room. 2 HR reps waited inside. "Katie." One of them began carefully. "We received a call from a woman claiming to be your fiancé. She said she's worried about your mental state affecting your performance." "She," I repeated. Interesting pronoun. The HR rep blinked. "Excuse me?" "She said she was my fiancé," I clarified, raising an eyebrow. They exchanged glances. "Yes. A Mr. Reed, sorry." He sounded very concerned. "Mentioned erratic behavior paranoia." I let out a dry laugh. "Marcus Reed," I said. "That's my ex. We broke up over a month ago. This is retaliation." They hesitated. "Do you have documentation?" "Yes," I said, opening my folder. Inside printed text, the eviction notice, a copy of the legal warning my lawyer sent him. I placed everything on the table, neat and precise. "He's been harassing me since I ended our engagement. Here's the proof." For a moment, no one spoke. Then my manager, Mr. Hale, exhaled. "I'm sorry, Katie. We had to follow up. You understand?" "I do," I said, "but I won't tolerate defamation. Please note the call in my HR file." When I walked out, my hands shook, but not from fear. From fury. Marcus wanted to shake my foundation. Instead, he strengthened it. That night, I forwarded everything to my lawyer, Julia, with one line. "He's crossed into professional harassment. I want options." Her reply came within the hour. "Cease and desist already sent. If he contacts your employer again, we move forward with legal action. You're in the right, Katie. Stay calm. Stay calm. The irony wasn't lost on me. 2 days later, I came home to find boxes stacked neatly by my garage apartment door. His boxes. He'd come while I was at work, retrieved his things under the supervision of the property manager, and left a note on top. It read, "You win. Enjoy your little kingdom." I tore the note in half, dropped it into the trash, and texted Julia again. "He's vacated. Proceed with final notice." She sent back a thumbs-up emoji. But Marcus wasn't done. 3 nights later, my phone rang, unknown number. "Katie." His voice slurred. Through the speaker. "You didn't have to go this far. I just wanted us to talk." "You called my job, Marcus," I said coldly. "That's not a conversation. That's sabotage. You made me look like a monster. Everyone thinks I used you." "You did use me," I interrupted. "You said it yourself. I was your stability plan." "You're twisting it again." I recorded it. Silence. Heavy and brittle. "You think you're better than me now, don't you?" "No," I said quietly. "Just freer." Then I hung up. The next morning, Julia emailed me a draft of the formal cease and desist. Further contact with Katie Blaha, her employer, friends, or family will result in defamation and harassment charges. It was clinical, sharp, and exactly what I needed. That evening, I drove to the old condo one last time to hand-deliver the letter. Marcus's car was still in the driveway. He opened the door, eyes red and sunken. "What now?" he muttered. "This." I handed him the envelope, from my lawyer. He snatched it open, scanned the first few lines, and laughed bitterly. "You think you can scare me with paperwork?" "I don't have to scare you," I said calmly. "The law already does." He crumpled the paper. "You think you've won?" "I think I've learned," I replied. He took a step forward, his tone darkening. "You'll regret this, Katie. You'll wake up one day and realize you destroyed something good." I tilted my head. If it were good, it wouldn't have destroyed me first. For a moment, his face flickered anger, confusion, loss. Then he turned away, muttering something under his breath. I left the envelope on the counter and walked out. Behind me, the door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames. That weekend, I met with Julia in person. "He's unpredictable," she said. "Keep everything documented. If he contacts you again, we'll file for a restraining order." "Would that stop him?" I asked. She gave a small, tired smile. "It'll make him realize you're serious. Men like that mistake silence for weakness. But you're not silent anymore." Her words echoed in my mind long after I drove home. That night, I sat by my window with a glass of wine city lights glinting outside. For the first time in years, I felt unafraid. Marcus had taken his best shot. He'd tried guilt manipulation, pity humiliation, and now career sabotage. None of it worked. Because when you've already survived emotional erosion, paperwork and phone calls are nothing but noise. I opened my laptop and began typing, not for him, but for myself. Everything that had happened since that honesty night. Every lie, every warning sign I'd ignored. Each word felt like reclaiming oxygen. At the top of the document, I wrote one sentence. He said love fades, but power shifts. I leaned back in my chair, reading it over, and smiled. Marcus wanted to show me what stability looked like. Instead, I showed him what strength does. And I wasn't finished yet. Because the universe, as it turned out, had one last lesson for him, poetic, brutal, and far more practical than anything I could have planned. 3 months. That's how long it took for the noise to fade, for my pulse to stop reacting to every unknown number, for Marcus's name to stop burning when I heard it whispered by mutual acquaintances. He had finally gone quiet, or so I thought. It began with a ripple, a mutual friend's text. Saw Marcus's post. "He's implying you were abusive. What's going on?" I opened social media. There it was, Marcus's new masterpiece of self-pity. A grayscale selfie eyes solemn captioned, "Healing from what I thought was love. Sometimes people break you so they can feel powerful. I'm learning to forgive." Hundreds of comments flooded beneath. "Stay strong, Marcus. She didn't deserve you. Toxic people hide behind professionalism." I scrolled slowly, not angry, just unsurprised. He wasn't content to lose control privately. He needed an audience. And as always, he was rewriting the story, recasting himself as the victim, me as the villain. 2 days later, I received a message request from an unfamiliar name, Angela Morales. Marcus's ex, the one he said destroyed him. Her message was short. "I know what he's doing. He did it to me too. If you want the truth, call me." I hesitated, then called. Her voice was calm but weary. "He said I was the crazy one too. Told everyone I ruined him after I found out he was seeing other women. When I left, he called my boss. Spread rumors, even posted about being emotionally abused. Sound familiar?" Every word felt like déjà vu. "He told me you were obsessed with him," I said quietly. She gave a dry laugh. "Of course he did. He always flips it. I have police reports, texts, proof of what he did. I kept it all. Why are you reaching out now? Because I saw him trying to do it again to you. I thought maybe if someone had warned me, I would have walked sooner. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Two women, same scars, same script. Thank you, I said finally, for believing me. Don't thank me. Just stop him before he hurts someone else. Her words lingered long after the call ended. The following week, poetic justice arrived. Marcus started dating a new woman, Melissa Crane, a corporate lawyer. His post screamed new beginnings, #real connection, #my love, #she gets me. I ignored it until Julia called one morning, half laughing, half shocked. You're going to love this. Melissa just dumped him, publicly. What? Apparently he tried to merge finances 2 months in. Told her it was practical. She posted a whole thread about financial manipulation in relationships. It's going viral. I opened the post. There it was, a familiar story, just with new characters. When a man says he values stability, sometimes he means control. Protect your independence. The irony was delicious. Marcus's empire of perception, built on smoke and ego, was collapsing again, this time publicly. A week later, I ran into him at a friend's barbecue. I hadn't planned to see him. I almost turned around when I spotted his car, but something inside me said, no, you don't run anymore. He was there, as predictable as ever, charming, laughing, too loudly, spinning half-truths into sympathy. When he noticed me, the smile on his face faltered. Katie, he said, his voice low, cautious. You look good. I feel good, I replied. He glanced toward the man beside me, Roger, a quiet school teacher I'd met at a community book fair. Roger was the kind of man who remembered small things, the way I took my coffee, the stories behind my rings, the exact sound of my laughter. Teacher right, Marcus asked. What does that pay? Roger smiled easily. Enough. I turned to Marcus. Love doesn't need a salary slip. He forced a laugh. Still sharp-tongued, huh? No, I said, just honest. He looked like he wanted to argue, but then a voice from across the yard called his name. Melissa. The lawyer X. She was talking to someone else, deliberately ignoring him. The look on her face said everything. For once, Marcus had no one left to charm. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Roger and I sat by the fire pit, watching the embers glow. Was that him? He asked gently. I nodded. That was him. Roger reached over, threading his fingers through mine. He seems small. He used to seem huge, I whispered. He used to fill every corner of my world. But I think that's what happens when you start believing someone else's idea of who you are. Roger smiled softly. And who are you now? I looked up at the stars and breathed. Someone who builds peace instead of chasing approval. When we left the barbecue, Marcus was standing alone by his car, scrolling through his phone, like a man searching for relevance. For the first time, I didn't feel pity or anger, just distance, a peaceful kind. Because I finally understood he never loved stability. He loved control disguised as calm. And I learned the difference. A few weeks later, I found an old box in my closet, the one labeled mistakes. Inside, the engagement ring glittered faintly duller than I remembered. I held it up to the light, then placed it in an envelope